over here. We are going to explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi, Rabbi Yitzchak Uzziel Z'tl, a great rabbi we're talking about back in the 16th and 17th century. He was born in English year 1550 and passed away in 1622. We're talking about 403 years ago, on the 3rd of April of that year. Naturally, that would have been Chaf Nisan, and we didn't really concentrate a video on at the time of his Hilula, so we're going to do one now. He was one of the great rabbis of Fez in Morocco, and was one of the first rabbis, let's just say, famous rabbis of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, especially during the 16th century and the start of the 17th century, respectively. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, I believe he was born around the year 1550, I have to confirm that, and came from great rabbinic auspices. I believe his father was Rab Avram Uzziel, who was a rabbi of the Jewish community of Fez, for, I believe, 2 generations after the expulsion from Spain, which was in 1492. He was significant, within regards to putting takanot and various different institutions in that community respectively. Now, one of the great Jews he was really one of the ancestors that actually came from exile from Castile originally. Now, it's reported over that there was a famine that took place, I think, between the Hebrew years Shin Samach Daled, Shin Samach Hey, in Fez at that point in time. And that obviously caused huge ramifications. So he was forced to leave Fez and traveled to different places. He would be a rabbi in Oran, the area of Oran, at that point in time, and then would move to Constantinople. Constantinople obviously is in it, where I believe where Istanbul is in modern day, and then eventually would arrive in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. This was in, I believe, so that was interesting. By the year Shin Yu Ayin, he would become the rabbi of a new synagogue, I think Neve Shalom, over there, and he would become an educator over there, would give great sermons in of itself, and really try to mitzchazek the community, and really try to strengthen the various different commandments in of itself. He was seen a bit more on the strict side within regards to his approach within regards to mitzchazek the people, and that was the attitude he would take place. This is what was reported over. I believe in the year 1618 he would open up a new synagogue just shortly before he passed away, called the Beit Yisrael. This was, remember, at that point in time, it was a growing community over there, and so he there was many rabbis at that point in time. I'm not too sure if he necessarily saw eye to eye with another rabbi, Rabbi Uriel Acosta, who was more of a philosopher, Portuguese philosopher, which maybe we'll hopefully speak about him in another video in this series over here. I believe he was actually descended from the Moranos, if I'm not mistaken. Rabbi Acosta was. Okay, so Rabbi Yitzchak would open up this synagogue over there, I believe in 1618, and much more would actually take place during this time period. Okay, he was, I think there was a Jewish historian of then, David Franco Mendes, would write about him, especially during his period in Amsterdam, very much about him, how within regards to his different art, music in of itself, the craft of song, and he would speak about him, I think, in one of his, which is actually quoted in National Library website over there. Okay, so we could say more within regards to the great Chacham. He was, while he was young, I think, parts of his community, while there was a lot of young people, I think, in the community, they would actually study with him. The community itself, there was close connection. Rabbi Yitzchak Abuhab, who we've spoken about before, he was a rabbi in Amsterdam, and a Kabbalist also, we've spoken about him before. He was openly against the Sabbatean movement. And Rabbi Menashe ben Israel, who we've spoken about on various occasions before, who was a founder of the first Hebrew printing press in Amsterdam. And so there was close connection with them. There was also Rabbi Shaul Moretira, another rabbi we spoke about before from the Spanish-Portuguese community. He was an author. I think the Baruch Spinoza actually would follow him, if I'm not mistaken. So they would all study together, and there was connection within each other at that stage in time, especially with Rabbi Yitzchak Uzziel. And I think, so much can be said about it. Now, he did a lot of poetry also, various poetry works. He was a Payatan and Meshurar, as they say. He had a book called the Ma'ana Lashon, which was especially concentrating on diktuk and language of Hebrew language, which would actually come out, I think, during his time period also. And after he passed away, I think through the printing house of his Talmid Rabbi Menashe ben Israel in Amsterdam, Shin Pei Zayin, various other Puritan poems, Torah poems will get actually printed in of itself. And very much Rabbi Menashe ben Israel would be the rabbi that would, let's say, bring back to some degree the Jewish community back to the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, I believe. Now, much of his, I think he had book Mishlei Iristor, I believe there was another book. This was Proverbs in Hebrew, which was another great working of his. He passed away on the 22nd of Nisan of that year. I believe it was around 1622. This happened to be. I believe he had a position in Oran. Oran, actually, just to reiterate, was in Algeria. And so he was very, very much well-traveled. Morocco, Algeria, the Netherlands, various different places. He, as we stated before, he was very trying to mitchazek the Sephardi community in of itself, gave various different lectures, which obviously would lead to the congregation being named Neve Shalom. And I think it was only in 1610 when Rabbi Yehuda Vega would pass away. He would become, who happened to be, I think, the first rabbi of the second synagogue of Amsterdam. Rabbi Uzziel would be then called to the rabbinate. Interesting enough. Now, the Ma'aneh Lashon was also, I think, as we said before, was edited by his Talmid, Rabbi Yitzchak Nehemiah. I think in 1627, this was 5 years after he passed away. There was various manuscripts, many in Hebrew and in Spanish, especially libros poéticos en declaración de todos los Equivas de las Sagradas Letras. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Highly praised by various people, including De Barros. He was a great poet, as I said before, a musician, distinguished mathematician. Also, it's actually interesting. I think Yosef Serrano, who was a Puerto Rican, would actually dedicate a poem to Rav Uzziel. I think it's inserted in the Tamei Dikdek. So much more can be stated within regards to him, a famous rabbi of the Netherlands in his day. So I recommend everyone to learn more about him. His name was Rabbi Yitzchak ben Avram Uzziel, to give him his full title. It was. And a lot of his writings, I believe, can be found inside the National Library, even in modern day here in Israel. There's a lot of information out there, which I very much recommend everyone to look into, and especially I think even on the Jewish Encyclopedia you can find various different writings within regards to the famous Rabbi Harab Uzziel over here. So it's interesting. We didn't cover a video at the time period of his Hilula, which I have to stress out also. So it's good to actually bring out more of memories and this biography video at this stage in time. I think it's very, very important. A lot of the collection of the Hebrew poetry can be found inside various different libraries in of itself. He was a great rabbi from Fez, from Oran, had a position in the Neve Shalom, and passed away, I believe, in April 1622. So wishing you all a fantastic day. Take care. Please, everyone, subscribe to the channel now. We're nearly on 7,000 subscribers. We're a community here. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. If you dissent from any of the great chachamim we're speaking about, please let me know. I would love to hear more. If you feel anyone's interested in watching these videos, please share the videos to other people also.